So the second issue for our top 10 insurance issues for non-insurance lawyers are defense costs. This is an incredibly important aspect of what we do as an insurance coverage law firm, because typically what happens is when there is a claim dispute, there's an underlying piece of litigation, more often than not, the attorney's fees are the number one cost incurred by a company. Maybe they don't have to settle, they never get to trial, or the settlement is very on the low end, or the defense costs have exhausted all the available insurance limits. So defense costs, what we consider a lot of these insurance policies, sometimes to be considered litigation defense policies, because it's really the primary funder for your very expensive outside counsel. So it's a very important issue. And there's 2 points here that I want to cover. The first is insurance carriers have many tools and many arguments to, if they do agree to provide defense costs, advance you defense costs, to lower the amount that they're going to pay you. They do this in many different ways. First, they'll say, you have 5 causes of action asserted against you. Of those 5, only 2 are arguably covered. 3 are definitely not covered in the policy. So we're only going to pay for 2/5 of every lawyer dollar that you incur and pay. So that's number one, they bring it down. The second way they try to lower their obligation to you to pay is they'll tell you, you can use that large law firm in New York City or Washington, D.C. They charge $1,000 an hour and they wear fancy suits. That's wonderful. But we, insurance company, have our own insurance litigation guidelines. And the maximum that we will pay your lawyer is $175 an hour or $250 an hour. Of course, anybody who's litigated in New York City or Washington, D.C. realizes that is just a very, very unreasonable hourly fee. And so what happens is you are constantly getting shortchanged by the insurance carrier, as even when they do agree to take on some responsibility for defense costs, they are making all these efforts to lower the amount that they're paying you, increasing the delta where you're either going to be out of pocket as the company, or maybe your outside lawyer is going to be out of pocket because he or she has to share some of that shortage with you. And now you're going to have a sort of unhappy litigation defense counsel working with you. So that's the first issue that you need to be mindful of. And it leads to the second issue. How do you deal with that? We deal with it at Miller Friel on a daily basis because it comes up in just about every claim that we deal with. So we negotiate very, very, very hard with the insurance carriers on this. We negotiate on this allocation of what's covered and not covered, right? Which parties are covered, and you sue. There's a lawsuit. There's 6 defendants. Carrier will say, well, only 3 are covered in the policy. The other 3 are not covered in the policy. So there goes 50% discount. And then they look at the causes of action and they take another 40% discount. So we negotiate very aggressively about who is covered and not covered, which causes of action are potentially covered and not covered. And we also have very, very, very hard discussions through good, sound legal analysis about why claims potentially could be covered, why the insurance companies are wrong. So that's how we, as Miller Friel as coverage lawyers, sort of bring our resources to bear. And why it's important for us to do it, 2 reasons. The defense counsel, who's been hired by the company to defend them in the underlying litigation, they either because they represent insurance companies and they have their own conflicts at their law firm, can't take on this position where they're acting adversely to insurance companies, so they can't do it for you. Or number 2, those lawyers who are acting as your defense counsel are sort of in an awkward position. They're defending you. They want to get paid by the insurance company, but they don't feel very comfortable trying to go after the insurance company aggressively and and zealously, and because they want to get paid and they don't want to sort of upset the apple cart, if you know what I mean. So that's why a firm like Miller Friel, with no conflicts, where we aren't beholden to the insurance carriers, we don't have these other issues, where we really go in, and what we try to do in this situation with defense costs is not only help our corporate policyholder client, the company, the defendant, but we're also helping their outside defense counsel they hired, right? Because the better we do our job, the better it is for our clients, and the better it is for the underlying defense counsel, because it means they're getting higher pay and better reimbursement rates. So it's really a win-win for everybody in this situation.